Getting rich in your 20s is the most important thing you can do, and even more so today as time goes on. I've done over $25 million with my businesses. I'm 22 years old, and as of yesterday, I officially retired. We're now spending almost $30,000 a month on my passion project, which is building these videos and creating content on social media, just giving with no expectation of anything in return. And if you're young, I'll bet you've heard this before. Oh, if you leave school and go do that business, you're gonna lose out on all the experiences and the fun of college and all the connections you can make. I promise you on my mother's life, I have had way better experiences, the craziest times of my life, and I'm gonna explain some of those in this video without going to college. In fact, I didn't even graduate high school. And you're about to see some crazy content on this channel, so make sure to like and subscribe. I'll be in about 8 countries this next month, snowboarding in 4 of them. Absolutely just like doing the stuff that I've always wanted to do since I was a kid, and I could not be more stoked for it. But in this video, it's all about you. If you're young, and even if you're in your 30s, you only have a limited window of time to get this done.
Yeah, look at me dead in my...
A lot of people think I'm gonna have fun in my 20s and I'm gonna build the business later. I'll get serious when I'm 30, right? When I have a family. The time cost of money and the opportunity cost of not having money when you are 22 versus 32 is massive, because as we know, an exponential growth curve, you get your outsized returns at the very end. And the longer that exponential curve is, the more money you can make. Take Warren Buffett for an example. The bulk of his wealth has been created in the last 20 years, not the first 40 of his career. It's absolutely insane to see that difference, but that's what compound interest does over time. So let's dial this back, and I promise I'll make this video worth your time. Break down the word rich, R-I-C-H. What does rich mean? Everybody has a different definition. Rich to me means money and liquidity. You might be rich but have absolutely no time freedom or location freedom. You might also be rich and not have money freedom, because money freedom to me, again, everybody has their own definition, means you are able to make money without you being involved. And rich to me typically means you're working for money. And while that's totally fine, I was active in my business and still am to some degree on the e-commerce side for so many years, it gave me the ability to now have the financial freedoms. Let me explain. I now own enough real estate to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year without ever doing anything. So I'm able to take the money that I earned actively from working jobs, whatever it is. For me, it was the consulting company, the education company, all the crazy e-commerce stores, all of that stuff. I took that money, and instead of spending it on stuff, which I did some fun things, instead I bought income streams. Primarily for me, that was real estate. Just like a couple weeks ago, wiring $350,000 to invest into a new real estate project that'll pay me 35 to 40 grand a year, tax-free, while the money grows. That's incredible. So you do that enough times, you can buy yourself a 6, 7-figure income stream depending on how much money you can make. And that's exactly where life gets crazy, because now I'm able to take a step back. All my expenses are covered, and while I also make a ton of money through the business, and I'm so freaking grateful for that, I can now do whatever I want, whenever I want, and I'm kind of leaning into that for the first time. I've had the Lamborghinis, but guess what? I bought the Lamborghini and immediately drove it home and continued working. And yeah, I definitely spun it by Chipotle like 6 hours later, but then I went back to work. So now I'm able to go do stuff and completely remove myself from the business, like snowboarding in 4 separate countries over 2 weeks, and then probably going to Italy and France just to have a good time. I can do that while still operating my business with very little involvement. So now let's get into the specifics. If you are in your 20s, the median income in America, depending on what study you read, is about $55,000 to $65,000. If you can double that, this is my challenge for you. Find a way to double that. You might have to pick up a side job. You might have to do some side hustle, maybe start a small business that has low capital expense. That's the key. It could be e-commerce, service, consulting, whatever it is. Find a way to make money. A sales job's probably the best option, door to door, whatever it is, find a way to do it. If you can make $100,000, spend half of it between taxes and living expenses and have 50 grand left over. If you can do that for a couple years, your life will significantly change, and here's why. Typical math means that your money doubles every 7 years. That is the industry standard, primarily using the S&P 500 as a vehicle and a metric to track that. Through real estate, it happens a little bit quicker for me, but again, I don't have that data for me over many, many years. But when you're actively investing, you know something a little bit more, and you're doing a little more work for it, you can definitely do that faster. But let's just take 7 years. You over 4 years save up $200,000. Every 7 years, that's going to double, okay? 200 goes into 400, goes into 800, goes into 1.6. You'll have multiple millions of dollars by the time you retire if you never add money to your retirement again. Let me explain this and yell this at you, and I love you, so I'm sorry I don't want to get all aggressive, but listen up. Even if you only save $200,000 in your 20s and you never invest again, you actually just hit one of the principles that's called Coast FIRE, COAST. This is from the FIRE movement, Financial Independence Retire Early. This means you have enough money invested where you can't retire today, but if you just make enough money to survive and cover your living expenses, you can spend all the money you make, and all the money you already have invested is going to grow into enough money by the age you want to retire. So let's say you want to retire at 45. Let's just do some simple math. A lot of the issues I see today when it comes to personal finance is people don't do the math. Get a big whiteboard. In fact, I'm going to send out a couple whiteboards to some of you amazing folks watching this video. Comment whiteboard down below. We'll confuse the people who haven't made it this far in this video. Nonetheless, the whiteboard is going to help you map it out. You can do it on a piece of paper, whatever you want. Just go through the math. What age do you maybe want to retire? Retirement doesn't have to mean not working. I'm still working actively. My business is still spit off money. In fact, I'll probably make more money now that I am retired over the long run because it's very sustainable. And so just do the simple math. Break down how much you have to make. Do you know that one broke friend you have, we all have this person, who refuses to confront the amount of money that they spend, right? They don't even know. If you ask one of your friends or family, how much do you make? How much do you spend? Those are two very simple numbers. If you can't answer that question, my friend, you have a problem. So here's a couple things you can do. On a monthly basis, go through your income and expenses. You'll start getting data points. You'll start to realize how much you spend on food. I still do this every week. I categorize exactly how much money I've spent on food, on travel, on personal expenses, on auto expenses. Like when I had, 5 or 6 cars and buying cars for other people, there was a lot of expenses there. So I just wanted to know where I spent my money. And just being aware of it is really going to change your financial situation. It sounds so simple, but simple is what works. This doesn't have to be hard. And now with social media and the progression of everything, I promise you this is only getting more difficult. I'm going to give you some examples. TikTok is absolutely killing you. If you're just on there scrolling, it's really messing with 2 things. Actually 3. Your serotonin, your dopamine, and your attention span. It is shortening our attention span. That's why you see short form content blowing up, because you can scroll and get a dopamine hit in a shorter amount of time. So people are doing that. It's just flick. So you got to be very careful on there, because when that shortens your attention span, it is going to impact the work. If you're trying to focus on something or start a business, it's not going to help you. And the serotonin and dopamine levels, I'm going to talk about in another video because it changed my life when I really understood them. And if you're using social media and you're not where you want to be financially, here's some simple rules. No phone 1 hour before bed. It's going to actually mess with your quality of sleep, but there's also no need to do it. You wear blue light blocking glasses, and then when you're on social media, set a time limit. There's apps and things inside your phone where it'll turn off the app once you've gone over a certain amount of time. Set a time limit on there and try to only watch content where it either inspires you or you learn something. Different YouTube videos, podcasts, things of that nature. Because social media is a great tool to learn. A lot of people just get sucked into the vacuum hole and they never come out. And I'll conclude with this because I think it's really important, and we've all seen it with the Andrew Tate stuff. While I'm not the biggest fan of his stuff, I do believe that society is putting us in a box. And he says a lot of crazy things, but his message comes across in different ways. I do think that society is putting us in an interesting position, whether it's on purpose or not. Nonetheless, social media, TikTok, all these short form platforms are shortening your attention span, and they are being used to control us in some way, even if it's not on purpose. All of this stuff didn't exist. The chemical reaction that happens in your brain when you're looking at blue lights, which we were not really meant to see. Originally as humans, we didn't have that until screens came along. That is not a healthy thing for your brain when you have long-term exposure to that. It affects your sleep because it activates and awakens certain parts of your brain. And the problem is when people are doing that right before they go to bed, it's not going to help you sleep. In fact, it's going to lower your sleep quality even if you sleep more. It acts like you slept less because your deep sleep is not as quality and you're not hitting long enough REM cycles. So just please be careful with that. I would love to talk more about the social media side of things, dopamine and all this. I'm super excited for the content coming out on this channel, documentary style with some great editing. Let me know what you thought of the video. Leave a comment down below. And if you are in your 20s, the last thing I'm going to leave you with is go get shredded. Go to the gym, work out. I don't care how much you weigh, where you live, if you're a man or a woman, or you're in your 30s or 40s, everybody should be healthy. There's absolutely no reason for 40% of Americans to be considered obese. That is not okay. I know some fat people who make a lot of money, and I'm going to call them that straight up, and I will to their face, right? Friends of mine, I'm not being disrespectful about it. It's not a long-term sustainable model. I realized that after 5 years of running my business, the way I was structuring it was not perfectly sustainable. And the thought of doing it for another 5 years, I just couldn't quite do it. I did not care enough about the additional money I would make. I would rather stop. So at that point, I had to redesign a system for me that aligned with my core values, the adjustments I've made over the years, and that will allow me to go the next 5, 10, 20 years. So I'm very grateful to be in the position I'm in. If there's anything I can do at all, sending you a whiteboard, a piece of paper if you don't have one, whatever it is, please do let me know in the comment section down below. Give me a follow on Instagram. I post way more over there, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Peace.